Hey there, this is Alex Kluge from Toronto Home Experts, and I'm here to dive into the May 2021 Toronto real estate market update. Now, before I dive into the numbers, I want to just share something that, anyone that's been looking or reading or following real estate as a news topic online is going to see some very, very different headlines. Really, if you Google Toronto real estate and you look at the news archives, you're going to see actually very different stories. Even though really we're talking about the same month, which is May 2021. So one of the things that I just wanted to paint into context when we're looking at some of these numbers, we're going to be comparing from May 2021 to May 2020. Now, if we can remember what was happening in May 2020, this was the start of the lockdown. And really, in terms of sales volume and new listings, all that was down significantly just because real estate was a new venture during the pandemic. People didn't really know how to react or what the impact of the pandemic would be on real estate prices, or what would the impact be on demand and so forth. So we're going to be looking at really two different markets, but I want to dive into some of the stuff that's happening this past month and what that might mean moving forward. So sales volume, is up to 11,951, which is amazing. Like, this is actually the second best May we have ever had in Toronto real estate board history. So amazing, and there's been calls that the market might be slowing down, the market might be shifting, but really, when you're looking at these stats, we're having the second best May ever. It's pretty impressive. And what's even more impressive, actually, April we had more sales on a higher sales volume than we had in May. So, it just shows that the health of the Toronto real estate market is still there. If we're looking at what I'm predicting might happen in June, I think we're going to see a little bit of a notch below, to be frank. Like, I don't think it's realistic to expect, 11,000 plus sales volume, but I do think we're going to have a very strong June. And probably my sense is we're going to have a stable July and August. Well, why is that? Interest rates are really still at all-time lows. I mean, 5-year fixed rates have climbed a little bit, but really we're seeing ultra low rates and buyers are taking advantage of that. And we're not seeing a huge impact by the stress test rules that were passed in on June 1st. So that may change over time. That may slowly take buyers away from the sidelines, but we're not seeing a real material impact when it comes to sales, prices, and volumes, and so forth. So, okay, active listings. Unsurprising, we had a very high active listings in May of 2020 because of the pandemic and a lot of the listings that were signed up in February, March. When, pre-pandemic, I want to call it, or early stages of pandemic, we're just staying on the market. And so really that's a little bit skewed, but, overall we're showing like a really healthy market. 12,000 actually is still low in terms of overall inventory. There is excess demand. So actually that's a good thing if you're selling. If you're buying real estate, it's still a little bit of a challenge depending on which markets you're looking to purchase in, whether that's the downtown market, midtown, or out in the 905. There's still a lot of competition, especially at the lower price point. But as we get higher up in price, there's still competition, but certainly it's not as fierce as the, what I would call the entry point, which is, sub 600K-ish in that territory. Okay, so new listings. Unsurprisingly, we're up, almost double from where we were last year. Again, not a lot of new listings that were launched last May, but here we're seeing like a pretty active and typical May, which is good. I mean, what we want to see is more inventory, and so they're giving more of a balanced approach to the market, which I think we're going to get to as the summer goes on. But we're still very much in a seller territory at this point. So average price, this is one of the stats that a lot of people pay a lot of attention to, and rightfully so. Our average price for Toronto real estate is, for last month, for May 2021, was $1.1 million. And that is the highest we've ever had on record. So If you're following our video from last month, you would have noticed that April numbers were slightly below March for average sale price, but now we're actually higher than we were in March of 2021. So it's actually a really good sign that we're seeing an increase or an average price increase. But you know what? Like if you look at where the average price increase was from last year, it's like 28%. And obviously that's not sustainable. And a lot of that was driven by the 905 in terms of price appreciation. But now we're actually seeing what's very interesting when I'm looking at stats from April and May, is that really now it's the 416 that's driving the bus when it comes to the real estate market. So it's good news. I mean, the 905, we're seeing a little bit of a slowdown, certainly not the same feverish activity we were seeing earlier in the year or late last year, but still prices are holding. So prices have not changed, but we're just seeing volumes down. But 416 is extremely, extremely healthy. So that's great news. But so in terms of where we are in the condo market, one of the common questions that we still get is how healthy is the condo market? And what's interesting is prices are still down from the pre-pandemic level. So when you look at the average price of a 416 condo for downtown, the average price is still higher in February 2020 than it is for May. My prediction is we'll probably get there in maybe not June. I know if you watched my video last month, I did say June we would get there. I'm not feeling that June will be a higher month for average prices, probably sometime in July or maybe even August, depending on where we travel this month with terms of sales volume and overall activity. But overall, I would say the market is still very, very active, and it's still very much tilted towards towards sellers. So buyers are going to have to be competing for some of that inventory. Days on market, average days on market is 11, which is unbelievably low. It's lower than it was last month. So again, that goes to the narrative that I'm talking about when it comes to that being very much a seller's market. So months of inventory for all our viewers, that this is one of the stats to look at. And we are down to 1.2 average months of inventory. So, that's just showing that there's not enough supply of homes to meet the demand of buyers. And the crazy thing is, if you think about it, like usually Toronto grows by just over 120,000 people a year, and that's primarily through immigration, which we haven't really seen over the past year. Due to the pandemic, border closures and so forth, yes, there has been some immigration, but it's been severely, severely cut back. So once really the borders open and we see more immigration through, it's going to be hard to satisfy that demand. So it's going to be continued price pressure upwards. So, I know our federal government is really going to be proactive about reinstating some of those immigration targets, which is amazing. So we want to see that, which is great news for real estate. And we'll see, as I said, pressure on prices upwards continuing on through the fall because of that low interest rates and movement to Toronto, or continued movement throughout this fall, and likely heading into the winter, but hard to speculate that far in advance. Okay, hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you have questions, you can hit us on all our social media channels. Smash that like button. Hopefully you like this video. We are loving the comments that we're getting, and we're loving all the questions. So if you want to have a question, feel free to reach out, and we'd be happy to answer them. And thanks again for supporting this channel, and we look forward to seeing you next month. Thanks again. Bye for now.